The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is one of the most pivotal and profound events in all of history. It is more than a story of suffering. It is the moment where eternity, prophecy, and divine love collided on a hill outside Jerusalem. To understand it fully, we must go deeper into the details and the backstory of how it came to be. For 3.5 years, Jesus of Nazareth traveled through the towns and villages of Galilee and Judea. He healed the sick, opened blind eyes, cast out demons, and even raised the dead. Crowds followed him everywhere, amazed by his authority and power. But he also challenged the traditions of the religious leaders, exposing hypocrisy and pointing people back to the heart of God. This stirred both wonder and opposition. To some, he was the long-awaited Messiah. To others, he was a threat that had to be removed. The tension reached its height during the Passover season, when Jerusalem was filled with pilgrims. Jesus entered the city riding a donkey, fulfilling an ancient prophecy of the coming king. The people shouted, "Hosanna!" and laid palm branches before him. But beneath the celebration, the religious authorities conspired. They feared his influence and feared Rome's reaction to his growing following. One of his own disciples, Judas Iscariot, agreed to betray him for 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave. On the night of his arrest, Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, deeply sorrowful, yet surrendering to his Father's will. "Not my will, but yours be done." Soon after, soldiers arrived with Judas leading them. With a kiss, the betrayal was sealed. Jesus was bound and taken away as his disciples scattered. He was dragged from one trial to another. Before the high priest, accusations were hurled, but none could truly stand. Before the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, the question was asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate could find no guilt in him. Yet the crowd, stirred by the priests, demanded his crucifixion. Pilate offered a choice to release Jesus or a known criminal named Barabbas. The people cried out, "Release Barabbas!" And for Jesus, "Crucify him." Though reluctant, Pilate gave in to the pressure. Jesus was scourged by Roman soldiers, a brutal whipping with leather straps embedded with bone and metal. His flesh was torn, blood streaming from his body. They mocked him, twisting thorns into a crown and pressing it into his head. Draping him in a robe, they bowed in mockery. "Hail, King of the Jews!" They struck him, spat on him, and prepared him for death. Weak and battered, Jesus was forced to carry the heavy wooden cross through the streets of Jerusalem, a path now remembered as the Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering. His body, weakened by loss of blood, stumbled under the weight. A man named Simon of Cyrene was pulled from the crowd to help him carry it. At last they reached Golgotha, the place of the skull. There, nails were driven through his hands and feet. The cross was lifted, and Jesus hung between two criminals. Above his head a sign read, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews," written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. The soldiers gambled for his clothing at the foot of the cross. As he hung there in agony, the crowd mocked him. "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." But Jesus did not come down. Instead he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." One of the criminals beside him hurled insults, but the other turned to him in faith. "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "Today you will be with me in paradise." For hours he endured the cross. Darkness fell over the land from noon until 3 in the afternoon, a sign that creation itself was mourning. With his final breaths he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" fulfilling ancient prophecy. Then he declared, "It is finished." At that moment the earth shook. The veil of the temple, the curtain that separated man from the holy presence of God, was torn in two from top to bottom. Access to God had been opened through the sacrifice of the Son. The Roman centurion standing guard was struck with awe and proclaimed, "Truly this was the Son of God." After his death, his body was taken down and placed in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy follower. A great stone sealed the entrance, and guards were placed to prevent any tampering. To his enemies it seemed final. To his followers it was despair. But the crucifixion was not the end. It was the climax of God's plan of redemption. By taking upon himself the punishment of sin, Jesus broke the power of death and opened the door to eternal life. 3 days later, he would rise again, proving that the cross was not defeat, but everlasting victory. The crucifixion was the greatest act of love. Jesus gave his life so that all who believe may find forgiveness, freedom, and eternal hope. On Calvary, history was changed forever.